to episode 4 of Terra Talks. I'm your host, Tara Babcock, here with Zoomin.tv Games, and this week we're going to talk about some Zerg strategy. I'm going to tell you how you can open greedily without dying to early harass. We're also going to talk about the unfortunate demise of the original Nintendo DS, as well as some pretty cool stuff for Tara's topic. I'm actually going to talk about why I think that older games were a lot harder than newer games. So, before we get started, I actually wanted to address the new transitions. I hope you guys like them. I know you guys didn't like my modeling transitions, and now they're a little bit more gamery, which is kind of more relevant to this. So, let's jump into the news. Let's talk a little bit about that. Are you guys in need of a new Nintendo DS? Well, you'd better get it soon. Nintendo didn't release a 2014 sales forecast for the hardware, feeding speculation that the popular handheld will cease to be produced soon. It's quite likely that Nintendo will focus on the 3DS now. They actually have no new games planned for the DS either, while the 3DS is getting a Yoshi's Island, a new Pokemon, a new Legend of Zelda, and a lot more. So by the looks of it, if you need a replacement for your original Nintendo DS, or you still play on that big, fat, chunky launch edition one, you'd better get it really quick. It'd be a shame to miss out on all the great games that they have for that handheld. The final chapter of THQ is almost written. The bankrupt game publisher has now sold all of its games and is just awaiting approval from a judge on May 13th. THQ actually owes quite a bit of money to a couple game companies, including Microsoft and game developer Double Fine. They are very unlikely to see this money after the judge's approval on the 13th. Let's actually take a look at who bought what from THQ. Koch Media bought the game studio Volition, as well as the Saints Row franchise. It also bought the Metro series and the soon-to-be-released Metro Last Night. Sega bought the Relic Entertainment game studio, as well as the Company of Heroes series and the Warhammer 40k strategy game license. I'm actually really interested to see what Sega does with the awesome Warhammer stuff. Ubisoft, not surprisingly, bought the THQ game studio in Montreal. This means that Assassin's Creed developer Patrice Desolais is back at his old company. Geez, I hope I didn't butcher his last name too much. Interestingly, they also acquired South Park: A Stick of Truth. Take-Two Interactive has sealed the deal for all of the WWE games, as well as an unannounced shooter called Evolve. Also, the Drawn-to-Life adventure games have been purchased by 505 Games. This includes the SpongeBob one. American game company Gearbox has purchased the rights to the Homeworld series. They even plan to re-release the Homeworld 1 and 2 using digital distribution platforms. Lastly, but certainly not least, Nordic Games has purchased over 150 titles. This includes Darksiders, The Red Faction, and Destroy All Humans. So, unfortunately, after May 13th, there will be nothing more of THQ but a memory.
If you want my advice, give this shit up.
Skeletons in your closet.
The hype for the new Grand Theft Auto 5 is slowly pumping up. Images uploaded to Reddit suggest that they are gonna make some kind of live-action movie or commercial or something for their new Golden Goose. In one of the photos, the logo for the game is clearly visible and apparent. Rockstar has even set up a Twitter account for the Epsilon program. Epsilon is a weird religious cult from the world of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. It's kind of like Scientology, and it makes a comeback in GTA 5. In a screensaver for Epsilon, you can see Chris Formage, the cult leader. He might actually be one of the big bad guys in GTA 5. Keep checking out our YouTube channel, Twitter, and Facebook fan page for more up-to-date GTA 5 news as it breaks. So that concludes this week's epic news section. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought, and let's jump over to the Terra's topic this week. And don't worry, it's not going to be about Starcraft, as you requested. So, in my spare time, I often think about random things and theorize and stuff, so this week's Terra's topic is going to be just that. This is why I personally think that old retro games were much harder to beat. Firstly, household gaming was not as prevalent as going to an arcade and spending all of your gaming time there. If games were really easy to beat, do you think anyone would justify coming back and spending the money just to go through the story again? They really had to exploit that competitive nature. This is compared to what we commonly do now with modern games, which is just purchase the game once and then you have it. There's no reason to keep coming back and spending money, so the company doesn't need to worry about hooking you in. Another possible reason could be that simply, back then, the market for gaming really wasn't that certain. Game companies couldn't justify spending a ton of money on really long games or making new games constantly. Honestly, even if each company was rolling in dough, they didn't really have the technology to do stuff like that. It was just way too new. So to keep players' attention, they made the game insanely hard to beat. thus making it kind of longer in a sense. Lastly, I think lesser complex graphics might have had something to do with it. If a game doesn't have amazing graphics, they have to have something to pull you in, and gameplay might have been it. Then again, back in the day, I used to think the graphics of Donkey Kong Country on the Super NES were amazing. So, I don't know. Many people I've talked to are a bit disappointed with the lack of difficulty in newer games. I myself find a lot of newer games more akin to movies than they are to actual games. Game developers seem to spend a lot of time on improving graphics and not necessarily as much time as they should on working on the playability and storyline. In addition, everyone seems to be marketing toward a larger audience instead of just skilled hardcore gamers. I am all for getting more people into the scene though, and I love this idea, although I do miss some of the really hard crazy arcade games. An example of this in my opinion, although they did really improve it in the sequel, is Batman Arkham Asylum. The character movement and mechanics were a little bit awkward, and the camera angles were often terrible with no way to actually change them. Is it more the fault of new engine experimentation and trial and error, or is there just a lack of effort put into those parts in the game? After all, I do love how Harley looks in HD. This is actually good news. I am all for gaming being the main pastime of everyone in every walk of life, but I still do want the challenge of my favorite games to be preserved as the market grows. Maybe that's why I love Starcraft so much. I actually really want to know how you guys think modern games are stacking up in terms of difficulty and depth of gameplay compared to the earliest hits. Let me know down in the comments. Let's start a debate. Now that we've done the news and Tara's topic, I'm gonna go jump into something more wartime appropriate as always, and then we'll get into the Starcraft tutorial. Be back in a second. Whew, that's better. Now I am supporting the Zerg because this week we are going to be talking about Zerg strategy. I am super stoked to teach you guys how to fast expand without dying to early harass. Let's jump into it. First, let's talk about the specifics of Zerg expanding if you're going against a Terran. Hatch first is optimal versus Terran. A drone scout is preferred, especially on smaller maps, and is sent out around 10 supply. This is really important as scouting for proxy barracks builds is key. Watch out though, these builds can be hard to scout as they're often confused for a CC first build. Keep your drone scout in the main base as long as possible and see whether or not he's going to pump out a CC or an orbital first. An orbital before a command center totally means he's proxying you. Watch out. If a proxy is indicated, send a second drone scout to check around your base for the barracks. If barracks are scouted and are not yet finished, send some drones to kill the workers building the barracks. If they do happen to be finished, put down a couple spine crawlers and build a few extra links to defend. Be ready for bunker denial too. And don't be afraid to pull drones too. You won't be as behind as they are as long as you can hold this push. Don't forget, spine crawlers do outrange bunkers, so don't worry too much if one does finish. If the Terran decides to expand early, don't worry, you're fine. Let the hatch finish and build a spawning pool. You can build one drone in between the hatch and the spawning pool though. Now it's time to talk about the dreaded ZVZ. This matchup is super micro intensive and kind of crazy. You can actually lose to a much lower level playing Zerg if you just make one mistake. It's pretty difficult. Just like against a Terran, a hatch first build is acceptable in a mirror match as well. Make sure to send out that drone scout though, as it is still necessary, especially on smaller 2-player maps where scouting is quicker. The scary things we need to watch out for against a Zerg player are early pool builds. We can still hatch first against these, but it is a little dangerous. Nothing we can't handle with a little bit of micro though. If you scout an early pool, make sure you build a spawning pool of your own. You can cancel the hatchery you already started making, or just don't make one at all. Continue drone production and build an overlord when you're at 18 out of 18 supply. Make sure you try to hide your drone scout in the main base of the Zerg opponent. It will come in handy a little bit later. Once your pool finishes, you can try building a spine crawler at the edge of their creep in their main base. Chances are they'll be way too busy microing lings in order to notice it, and at the very least they'll have to pull drones and stop mining in order to kill it. Be prepared to see his lings and drones streaming across the map. Once they enter your natural expand, pull all of your drones and use the mineral trick to surround his Zerglings. Don't know the mineral trick? If you command drones to go to a mineral patch, they actually lose unit collision and you'll be able to actually move through lings. Use this trick to surround the lings as they come into your main base. If your opponent runs out of your drone surround, you will have to fight using your drones at the mineral line. Make sure you're building lings as soon as larva permits though. This is another really cool use of the mineral trick. Collapse all of your drones into one nook of the mineral patch and use the attack command every couple seconds to hit them all at once. This will allow you to do maximal damage versus each ling, often even one-shotting each of them. In the case that your opponent brings drones to build spines on your creep, make sure you have at least 4 drones on each spine and the rest of the drones attacking the lings. This is the hardest aggression to defend against. Overlord placement is super important when going hatch first. Make sure that you do have vision of the path that he would need to travel in order to get into your base. I mean, you want to know when he's coming, right? This position also differs slightly depending on which map you're playing on. Alright, let's move on to the unique way you're going to have to play when faced against a Protoss opponent. Against a Protoss, the safest way to play greedy is build a pool first and then double expand after that. This is mainly because Protoss players will often try to block your expansion at your natural using a pylon. This can be easily dealt with as long as we have a pool and a couple links to utilize earlier in the game. These links can also come in handy if you're being cannon rushed or if he's going proxy gateway, making this a very safe but economical build. Build your spawning pool at 14 supply and try to put your hatchery down at 16 supply. Once you have another 300 minerals, you're going to want to put down another hatchery at your third. A drone scout in this matchup is not necessary. You'll just send your overlord to the natural of the opponent at the very start of the game. This will let you know whether or not the Protoss is expanding just in time. If your overlord scouts that your opponent is not expanding, immediately put down a gas geyser and research Zergling speed. This, in correlation with spine crawlers, will help you defend in case he decides to forgate you on one base. If this happens, sack the third base and easily defend your other two. Don't worry, you'll still be on double the working bases of your opponent and still be ahead. Use your initial links to scout for any other pylons or probes that might be around the map. Move them around often, put them at key locations such as Zolnaga watchtowers and in front of your opponent's base. It can be hard to scout early enough on a large 4-player map. In this case, if your drone scout doesn't get lucky with the first base that he checks out, make sure you put down a pool first. This concludes the show for the week. I hope you guys enjoyed learning how to be a greedy Zerg. Next week, we'll learn how to do it with Terran. As usual, post your comments down there, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and smile because that's obviously the best thing to do. See you guys soon!